just finished Survivor Fiji, aka Race Wars Part 2 Has versus Have Nots, aka the second time it came home with Earl Cole winning. I'm joined once again by Gia coming back, first time since Marquesas. Gia, I know that this is your season.
Yes.
So I feel like we will be going at it for a while tonight. Initial thoughts on the season when you first watched it, and every single time you've watched it since then. Has it changed? Has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse?
Mm-hmm. So when I first watched the season, I watched it live, and I believe this season aired actually about 15 years ago, because I know we celebrated the 15-year anniversary of this season this year. So I was about 12 when it aired. And I remember just really enjoying the season. I was very excited, even as, a preteen at that point, that we were starting to get more racially diverse cast, as someone that wanted to see, in my case, more Black players, because that was like a Black biracial child. But also, like, looking back on it, it was really nice to see more Asian contestants, more Hispanic contestants. Obviously, I wish they went a little more in depth with how they cast. Like, I would love to have seen more Indigenous people or people from other groups that are not really represented even in these diverse seasons. And I think we're getting to a better place with that now with the new diversity initiatives. But Fiji was a great test for that, about like what the possibilities were for a racially diverse cast.
And 15 years later, we finally
Yes, and it only took 15 years after this season before they said, we'll try it one more time. Now 2 more times. But so I remember really liking it. I think it helps that, even as a little kid, I feel like you buy into the edit a lot more easily as a kid. And that being said, I was like a big Yall fan, and was, obviously was very taken with Yall, as was the rest of the country at the time. And on my rewatches, I still do like Yall a lot. Like, that has not diminished in any of my rewatches. I was always a big fan of Earl. I remembered his win very clearly. I remember that it was the first unanimous win. It was the first unanimous win that I saw. I started watching in All Stars and Vanuatu era. And then I learned later that that was actually like the first unanimous win ever. And it is not an undeserved unanimous win. Like, this is a very well-earned win on Earl's part. But also, I have to give props to 2 of my other favorites that are rarely talked about in the contention of like great one-time Survivor players, but I feel like need to be discussed. And that is Cassandra Franklin and Dreams Heard. Both fantastic players, both great strategists, both underdogs that came out from being the bottom of the pecking order to their tribe to sharing second place in a season that had so many things working against them, besides the fact that they were on the Have tribe. So I am so grateful for all 3 of our final 3, the only Black final 3 that Survivor has had thus far. But I'm also very grateful for characters like Yall and Michelle Yee, who has a very tragic boot, but she is so enjoyable while she's there. The Fall of the Four Horsemen is one of the best episodes in Survivor history. By far the best episode of this season, but like what, like, even when we're talking about Survivor great episodes, It's a Turtle, which is the title of that episode, is almost always at least in the top 20. And I would say it's a top 10. But
I would say that for me, it'd probably be like a top 10, top 15. I agree. Like,
yes,
It's a Turtle, just because in my head, it was Yall that said the quote. In reality, it wasn't Yall that said the quote. He said it 2 episodes beforehand. It was Mookie. I think it was Mookie.
No. So it was Earl who, as we know, if you remember, Earl is asking Dreams what the idol looks like.
Yes.
And Dreams is explaining that it's in the shape of a turtle, to which Earl says it's a turtle. And that's the episode. But the genius behind that is that we know, as the audience, that Earl has has seen the idol because Yao Man found the idol beforehand and showed it to him. And he's asking Dreams what the idol looks like to confirm that it is without revealing that he knows where their idol is.
Yes.
And that is just one example of the subtle brilliance of this season that when you do get into the rewatches, you can definitely appreciate more, especially now that we have testimony from the players in this season, or at least like the players that I hold very dear to my heart. Anthony Robinson, another great
we'll get to Anthony.
Favorite. Yes.
I've got opinions
And
on him and Erica.
I have to admit, though, Dreams Heard, one of my favorite players of all time. I'm a huge fan of his. I loved him when I first watched when I was 12, and I continue to love him as a player going so far down the line. I'm sure that, like you, I watched as a kid and then rewatched seasons as an adult, and some of my opinions waver after that. You know, like maybe some of, maybe the seasons I liked as a kid, I didn't particularly like, or maybe some of those characters that stuck out to me as a kid weren't really like my cup of tea later on. This is not the case with the Fiji Final Three. This is not the case with Yao Man. This is not the case with Michelle or Anthony. Like, these players are still serving all these years later. I would love to see any of them back in any capacity on like returning to Survivor or some other competition show. And I'm just like so happy that we have this season and that you invited me to talk about the season that I care so much about.
And I'm once again very thankful that you decided to. And I'll say my first time watching this season, yes, Yao Man person. Earl Cole is my favorite male winner of all time. It's probably my favorite winner of all time. Whenever I apply for orgs, there was, what winner do you? I'm like, Earl Cole, of course. When I first watched the season, the characters that I didn't like, every other time that's happened since then, I didn't like. And I think that's my problem with this season, is that there are so many good things that should resonate more with me than the negatives. But this is one of those seasons where the negatives just really just eat away at me to the point where I don't check out. I just find myself getting angry. Pre-merge, the Erica boot, which came out of nowhere, and I didn't remember how out of nowhere it was until I did this rewatch. The way that Anthony's treated by Rocky, and at a lesser extent Mookie, but mostly Rocky. The tribal council where Anthony goes home, I found myself this time once again saying, maybe I just remember it wrong and he'll actually stay this time. Because these people can't sit here and watch these two interact and think, this is the guy that we need to keep. And they keep him anyway. The merge, I think it does go, like, I do like the merge aspect of the game. I think from when the merge happens until Final Four, all very captivating, all great television. The Final Three, I love an all-black Final Three. And then I just find myself angry at Final Tribal Council, where it's just like, why are y'all so upset with these three people? Like, these three people, actually, if you want to be upset with someone the most, probably Dreams. If you're a juror, he has kind of screwed a lot of you. But Sandra didn't do anything wrong. Earl didn't do anything wrong. And it seemed like a lot of people, three in particular, came in. I felt like trying to make a couple of them cry just based off of how vehement they were being with everything. And, Alex attacking Cassandra, telling, oh, this is my time to talk, asking her to shut up, or telling her to shut up.
Yeah.
Boo, attacking Dreams as a Christian, which was just wild to me. Fiji is always going to be one of those seasons where I wish I could like it more than I do. Mm-hmm. And it's because in my head, I feel personally attacked when I see specifically these three people being attacked. So I do want to ask, before we start going to actual details of the season, how come that doesn't stick with you as much as the positives do, throughout your time enjoying the season?
I don't want to say the ends justify the means, but because that's not what it is. But the story of really, like, let's get it out of the way now. There's an all-black alliance between all of the 5 black players that are on this season. It was decided on day 1, and even through the tribe swaps and how things were split, this is something that is continuing. Now, the edit doesn't show the continuing theme, but when you're watching it, you see bits and pieces of it there. If you are a Survivor fan like me, you can watch this season and read the edit of there is an all-black alliance that is dominating this game. And yes, we see all the things in between it happening, but Anthony, the narrator of the pre-merge to me, like he is an icon. He's such a great confessionalist. Erica, very strong presence, voted out, like you said, out of nowhere. But I feel like this is an instance of, like sometimes the early boots, they get robbed, and we can talk about like exactly what happened. And I don't think it's really Erica's fault what happens here.
Nope.
But then, and Earl, Dreams, and Cassandra all have underdog stories in some way or another. I already talked about Dreams and Cassandra, but then like Earl was on Ravu. He was on the tribe that was losing everything, and by some miracle, but was not even in contention of ever being voted out, no matter how volatile this tribe got. And I just really love the journeys for them. And the anger that we see in that final tribal council is disheartening, but it's also reason why all of those jury members are there. They can't comprehend the fact that 3 players that they did not see as intelligent people, especially Dreams and Cassandra, because we know how they were treated on their original tribe. They were underestimated, underutilized by other members besides like arguably like Earl and Yall, who are the people that saw value in them as allies. Like Yall also more than willing to work with them too, as once Earl starts pulling everyone in. And like the fact that they are so underestimated makes their appearance in the final 3 just all the more better. And this jury can be mad all they want, and they're wrong for doing it, because I completely agree with you. Like the way they speak to their players is disgusting. But guess what? They got to vote one person to win $1 million, and they can only choose between those 3. And whether or not they like it, there's a reason those 3 are sitting there and they aren't. Those players outwitted, outlasted, and outplayed you all. And to me, that is like the reward of the season, is that this final 3 did not happen by coincidence, and Earl's win didn't happen by coincidence. This is the careful calculating of 3 incredible players that I wish we discussed more when we're talking about like the realm of great Survivor players.
Yeah, I was, as I was watching this this time around, knowing about the All Black Alliance and everything. First of all, you can clearly see where that is apparent now, and it's crazy that they didn't acknowledge it in the edit. I will say that yes, it is fun to see these. It is fun to see these people be so angry at the fact that they got played. And I don't hate Fiji. I actually really like Fiji.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those seasons that makes me angry in certain aspects. And I will start from the beginning and we'll work our way through.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we're not going to talk about what happened right before the show, but we end up with 19 people. It, optics-wise, it absolutely looks like Race Wars 2. Like, this is what we're going to do. We can't do it anymore, so we're going to do has versus have-nots, which, when people shit on Fiji, that's usually the thing that they bring up. And honestly, to me, that doesn't really... Like, it sucks watching one tribe just totally get decimated, but I don't check out watching that in this season. I checked out watching that in Palau. Like, I get bored watching Ulan lose. Here, I think because there was a swap, it made it more compelling, but that doesn't bother me. What bothers me pre-merge is Rocky and Lacey, which, funny enough, also bothers me at Final Tribal. Rocky, just from the very beginning, you can tell that he's being typecast as like, they want to get Rob Mariano back, but sadly, this dude has no charisma and is kind of a dickhead. The way that he treats Anthony, but even before that, his reasoning for voting out Erica, she's a threat. Like, second boot, she's a threat. It's like, okay, and I'm not saying what I think I might be implying, but that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. His rivalry with Dreams, I will say, night one, every time I watch the season, Dreams is not my favorite character. He should just shut up in the tent and just go to bed. But from there, I was definitely Team Dreams versus Rocky when they did the sumo challenge, and Dreams just owns this kid. And it just brings so much happiness to my heart because fuck Rocky, I love it a lot.
You cannot tell me when the first thing that we see in the nighttime sequence is Dream saying, "What kind of name is Earl?" And then Earl immediately says, "Really? Dreams?" This season is comedy too, and it's largely because of characters like Earl and Dreams that we
Dreams
get
not knowing how to pronounce certain words, which is sad, but also very funny.
But like, same though. That's not. Yeah, but like, who can say soliloquy? Like, I just said.
We both
did. Yes, but like in the moment, I also stumble over my words all the time. So you know what, Dreams? You don't need to say soliloquy. You won $100 grand and a car.
And a car.
And a car.
So Anthony, when I first watched this season, I related more to Anthony than I did to Earl as a blurred. And I did feel like he was the narrator that the pre-jury needed.
Yeah.
And I felt for him when, you could tell that impulsively he wants to go off on these people, but can't because he actually understands it's a social game and I have to keep my mouth shut. And so when Rocky is telling him at the round that he gets booted, you don't know how to socialize. You're a horrible person when it comes to this. You need to learn how to stand up for yourself. And it's like, in this situation, because I know that I am an impulsive person, this is where the disconnect between me and Anthony starts, because at that point I would have said, shut the fuck up. But Anthony understands I still could survive this round. Maybe if I just sit here, defend myself, but not get too extreme, there is a chance that I stay over this guy. And the fact that he doesn't is screwy, but I understand why everyone decided to go the way that they did. They were thinking potentially we could win a challenge.
Sure.
And Anthony goes. But going back to the Erica one, and we touched on this before we went on, before we went live. The two black players that went pre-merge, the reasons in my head that they went was because Earl wasn't there to put his foot down when it came to people putting their names out there. And I think that is a testament to Earl's game because people really listened to him.
Yeah. He was really like a leader on Bravo when he was on there. And I feel like but he didn't want people to know he was the leader. And I think that was really his specialty, is that he was able to, he has this ability to make other people think that like what he wants to do is their idea and that it's like the best idea for the tribe, when really like, and that's why I do think that like if Earl did not go to Exile Island that episode, we have a pretty solid chance that Erica stays at least one more round. Like, I don't know if Earl would have decided that like protecting Erica in the second round would have been worth like the push for it if like someone like Rocky is like so adamant about getting her out. But I could definitely see a reason for this. Like, there is definitely a world where Erica stays a lot longer just from Earl not being on Exile Island. And I'm not saying
the order for the black players still goes the same, even if it happens.
Oh yeah. And I
they're
think
doing the Rocky Anthony thing right now for the reunion. And
and that's the other thing, is that like Jeff tries to spin it as like, oh, like Rocky cares for you in like in his own special way, and it's just like, no, like he can be caring and express it like a normal human being. Like, he does not have to insult you. Well, like let's move away from that narrative, Jeffrey, please. This is embarrassing for you.
And this is the other thing about doing a rewatch of the season is and we're going to move to the other tribe for a second, the Moto tribe, because I really like Alex and Edgardo for the majority of this season, mainly because they, it could be strategy, it could be social, it could be both. They both stand up for Dreams and Cassandra a lot during the pre-merge OG Moto tribe. And it's frustrating watching the season this time, knowing I'm going to eventually hate Alex by the time this is all done because of how he treats those same two people at Final Tribal. But pre-merge, I'm thankful that the two of them ended up on the tribe that didn't lose, because I do feel like those two would have gone pretty early, especially because Lacey somehow was in the Power Alliance at the time, or Lacey and Stacey were in the Power Alliance at the time, and the whole Coffee Gate that's such an uncomfortable scene to watch. Because
just teach Dreams how to use a French press. I have
no
idea how a French press. Yeah.
You know his story. Why are you sitting here judging him? And I apologize. I know that I'm coming off as very heated. I am just coming off of watching that final trap. So I'm very angry at certain things, but you know this man's story at this point, and you're still deciding, hey, I'm not going to help him. And then Alex sitting there saying, hey, you do realize that if we merge, those two will probably just jump on the other side. So we probably should treat them better. It's like, oh no, we don't have to do that. You kind of do.
So this is another thing I like about Fiji too, is that it has this mix of we get nuance from players like Earl and Cassandra, but we also get very basic mistakes like what we see on Moto, where they think it is not going to matter to them that Dreams and Cassandra could potentially flip if they're, for any reason, if they make it to merge, this tribe keeps on winning. If there's a tribe swap, which, does happen very shortly after this. And pan to the confessional of Dreams, immediately after them saying that they don't have to worry about that. Dreams saying, we're just waiting for literally anything to happen. As soon as there's a swap, as soon as there's a merge, Cassandra and I are going to flip. And I don't think that's Dreams speaking for Cassandra. I am sure they have had this conversation multiple times where they were we're just waiting to flip. We're just waiting back to get, I think at that point, Erica was gone. So I'm they're just waiting to get back to Earl and Anthony at this point. They just got to bide their time until literally anything happens. And look what happens though. This is a thing that does bother me about Fiji, is that I wish we saw more of it from this underdog perspective of Dreams, Cassandra, and Earl, especially since that becomes our final three. And I totally see the appeal of Yall Man and why we see so much of Yall Man in this season. He's a very compelling character. I adored watching Yall Man. I still love watching Yall Man, but the editors know what the final three is going to be. So I'd love to have seen more of the game in their perspective without just outright giving away who the winner is. And even a confessional after the Fall of the Four Horsemen being maybe we hear from Cassandra, you guys thought we weren't going to flip. And guess what? That's exactly what we did. Actions have consequences. I would like more things like that, where it'd be listen, this isn't just something that they just decided to do. There is reasons and strategy and calculations being made for why they are doing this.
Yes, and I think a testament to that, at least in Earl's case, is at Final Tribal, where Rocky says, oh yes, how are you a manipulator? And Earl straight up says, everyone thought I wasn't playing the game, when in reality, I was playing I pretended to be that way while also pretty much deciding everything that was going on in the game. And I will never sit here and say that Earl, like you said earlier, that Earl didn't deserve every single vote of that Final Tribal, because I think he does. I do feel like a lot of people's reasonings behind not voting for the other two are, not the best. But I can't, obviously I can't say that without saying straight up, Dreams deserved to vote, Cassandra deserved to vote, because I don't think they did. Sitting next to Earl.
Yeah, I feel it's possible to have the mindset that Earl deserved the unanimous vote because he played such a masterful game that's often undersold in the greater Survivor discourse, but also that I don't agree with people's reasons being to not vote for Dreams and Cassandra, even though I know we're not on the jury, we can't speak, you have to put jury management into account, but I just think at the end of the day that as soon as Dreams and Cassandra got one over on most of Moto, let's be honest, They did not value them as like intelligent people.
Nope.
When like with their own self-interest in this game, like they didn't value them when they were all in the game, and now that they have now outplaced them, they want to believe that they don't deserve to be there. Like they didn't play the way that they were supposed to in their heads. And someone like Alex, that's another thing that in the game, he was such a compelling character, but out of the game, it was outside of like once he was voted out, it seems like he was fine standing up for Dreams and Cassandra when they were below his station. When it was, if things go wrong, like if Moto loses, they can just vote Cassandra out, or they can vote Dreams out, like it's not, like they need him more than Alex needs Dreams and Cassandra in that point. But then we get to merge, and look what happens. You need Dreams and Cassandra now, but they don't have, like, they have every reason in the world to not trust you.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is like the 1,000th time I've said this, and this is what's so frustrating about this season for me, is I go in every single time like, this is my Earl Cole season. Like, I'm going to love it this time. And every time I come out of it, I come out like this, where it's like, I just watch Earl win on my TV, and I'm still looking back on how people just. I know that when it comes to 13 and 14, people always put Cook Islands ahead, and I think that it is for good reason, because I feel like the positives outweigh the negatives in that season. I'm one of the people that want to put Fiji ahead of Cook Islands, and I feel like if it was a better edited season of Fiji, I think that it would be. It's just that we get so much of this, and it's so frustrating. Let's get to other things before I start talking in circles. Michelle.
Yeah. Oh, Queen. I do want to say, though, because we did mention Anthony earlier, that I would love to see Anthony in particular compete on a future season, because I feel like his talents were wasted in this season, where he was with a lot of people that valued brute strength above all else. And even just seeing the way that he was able to speak for himself in his confessionals, but also the way that he was able to respond in very distressing situations, like not just his treatment, but just being on the have-not tribes both times, like in the original iteration of this and in the swap, that I just feel like this is a man that could thrive in a more modern season of Survivor, where we can rely on more advantages. Like they have idols here, but not much else. And they can all, like there's a lot more. I feel like Anthony is better. Yeah. Anthony has a lot of great moments in this season. So I don't want to just diminish his appearance to like being mistreated by Rocky, but I feel like his talents are better used in a future season, which is why they should bring him back.
I agree, and that's just because I'm an Anthony fan. Who
isn't an Anthony fan? I don't trust people that aren't
either Anthony fans, or they forget who he is.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anyone that's not an Anthony fan. Yes. But I do feel like the person, according to the internet, that most people want back from this season, not including Earl, is Michelle. Yes. Which, one question: does she have dreads? Were those dreads?
I would not call them dreads.
Okay.
But
I don't think they were problematic dreads, but she's not white. But still.
No, but like they're definitely not locks. I guess they would be considered dreads, because I don't know what else to tell them, but it was like only the bottom half of her hair from what we can tell. Like it seems like I don't know what to call it. Maybe it was dread. I don't know. It was very confusing.
Yeah, I don't know why that's what stood out to me this time with her. Yeah. I'm like, does she have dreads?
It's very hard to tell. Yeah.
Thoughts on Michelle, and you could cap it off by how she was voted out. So just her story up to that point, and was she screwed? Yes.
I loved Michelle. I didn't remember her too much from my first watch, just because so many things happened and I was 12. So I don't remember every little character from the season. but like in my first watch, like watching in the real time. But every time since then, I've watched her and just loved what we got from her. She was always very upbeat, very positive. She was a great ally to Earl in particular. So that was a really great camaraderie that we saw outside of the All Black Alliance that I really appreciated. Of course, like the big dynamic duo that is discussed in the season is Earl and Yall Man. But I really enjoyed the friendship between Michelle and Earl as well. And I think she was a very capable player. Like, I would have loved to seen more of like, what is her strategy going into the merge? Is she committed to staying with the original Ravu people, the syndicate, as I think Gowman calls them at some point. So like, would she be committed to staying with the syndicate, which from what we've seen or what we saw from the show made me believe that that would have been her plan. Or would she try to flip when she started to realize that maybe like Dreams and Cassandra were getting a little more close with her allies, So it would have been a very interesting storyline to follow. But what we saw from her was great, and I very much enjoyed the time we have with her. I feel like that would be a very fun underrated. I guess not underrated, like properly rated choice for a returning player, but I feel like she's not someone that's on like production's radar, but I would love if they put her back on the radar.
She's on the super fan radar.
I would love to that would be like the fan request of the century if like people actually listened to us and tried to get Michelle Yee back. And oh yeah, she was a delight, a pure delight for all the time that we saw her, even when like she has to drink out of leaves. So I was a fan.
So then, thoughts on why she went during that tribal council?
I did tell you that I did have thoughts on this. So this will definitely, I'm glad that this is coming up. So obviously for that episode, they were split into 2 tribes of 5 and 1 tribe won, and they won immunity, but then also didn't go to tribal council. So it was just that group of 5 that was voting. And the way that votes were split, it was like 2 on Michelle and 2 on Stacy, I believe. And then Dreams would have been, because Mookie voted to
Mookie voted Michelle for Stacy.
Yes. So Mookie wanted to keep Michelle. So so Dreams was the deciding vote on this. And what the edit shows us is that Stacy says Michelle says in tribal council that she doesn't really know Dreams, but she'd like to work with him, which was like like a paraphrase of what she said. And Dreams realized in that moment that, we actually don't know each other. So like, why would I keep her around? And so he votes her out over Stacy, who is someone that he does know and has like it's weird to kind of see, like, because it's a negative relationship from what we see, but there's this very quick switch where Stacy is super tight with Cassandra and Dreams at some point, or at the very least Cassandra.
I just always chalked it up to Alex telling her, relax, we need these people.
I know. So I'm not entirely sure of like where, because there is a point where Stacy flips to just like fully align herself with the syndicate. And I honestly, I'm giving props to Cassandra for that, because I don't know how else that possibly could have happened in like the iteration of this tribe that we saw. It seems like they got a lot closer once everyone else was on the new Ravu, I'm assuming. But that's again like a big leap in what we're discussing. But Dreams did an interview, like, say what you want about Johnny Fairplay, but he did do an interview.
I listened to this, yes, I did.
I did listen to it. And he also did talking with T-Bird, like, shortly after. So I'm not entirely sure which one it was. But Dreams said in that interview that he was always going to vote out Michelle because he knew that Michelle was close with Earl and he wanted to vote her out so that that the All Black Alliance would be more solidified. And in more or less words, like basically that he wasn't going to risk his game in the event that Earl decides to side with Michelle and Yall over Dreams and Cassandra, or like just Michelle over like Dreams and Cassandra. He wanted to make sure that he had his spot in like that core alliance. So while it was definitely a very strategic decision on Dream's part, there is definitely a lot to be said about the fact that only 5 of them voted in the way, because we've had like similar situations in the recent seasons where half the merged tribe is immune, but everybody votes. So I feel like Michelle would not have gone if it was a situation like that where
if everyone
everyone
was
was
voting.
voting amongst the 5 people. But again, like this, and it doesn't help that they went right to tribal after that. That was the other part that's really difficult pill to swallow in terms of like Michelle's time in there, is that she had a lot working against her, not really to her doing, not really because of like anything she did, but just how this merge twist worked. And we can say the same for other players and other merge twists, like the ones that we have in 41 and 42. But I feel like if it's going to be a merge, at least give them time to get acquainted with one another. And even more so, let everyone vote. It's a merge. So I don't know. It was a weird piece of it, but I don't fault Dreams for the decision he made, even though I would have loved to see more of Michelle.
And I think that's a great segue into what you have alluded to a lot throughout this. It's the fact that Dreams is a very underrated strategist on the season.
Yes.
I would say that besides Earl, Yall, I would put Dreams in that same tier, for this season. And I might even put Alex there because I do feel like Alex had a good to great strategic mind. But Dreams is constantly in the middle. People trust him enough. They never trust him to the point where like we'll let him in on our final plan, but we'll trust him enough to let him know this. We'll let him into both of these alliances. We'll believe when he comes back and says this, that, and the other because he's with us. And every time he gives a confessional or he explains it, like we saw on camera where he explains it to people, it makes sense in your head, and you can tell that it makes sense in the other people's heads that he's telling. So the fact that people consistently look at him as a moron is insane to me. To the point where Lacey asks him how many zeros are in a million and is taken aback at the fact that he answers it twice with the correct answer and like looks at the jury as if she was expecting them to also be taken aback. But I do feel like the jury probably thought, okay, even if we don't think he's the smartest person, which shame on them, we kind of assumed that he knows how many zeros are in a million. But Dreams is a very, very underrated strategist for the season and a very underrated social player for the season. Once out, I could just give the same thing I just gave then, where he's always in the middle, and I think Yall does understand there is a chance that Dreams wins at the end, whether you want to call it a sympathy vote or not. People like Dreams while they're playing with them. Yes, people felt burned by him, but if it's a final 3 with Dreams, Cassandra, and maybe like Boo or Stacy, I think there is a very large chance that Dreams wins in that situation. And I know that's going a little too, but I do feel like Dreams wins in that situation, and it's for lack of a better phrase, it's fucky the way that he's not portrayed. Like they're not portraying him this way. They're not portraying him as a strategic and social person. You have to actually watch it to understand that he is both of these. But he is both of these. So I know you've already spoken enough about Dreams, but if you want to go on a little bit more,
we can talk about Dreams all night if we want to. Like, I know you have other seasons to get to, so
China's in my queue right now. But
yes, but no, I like Dreams is a fantastic player. This is another one. Like Fiji is full of players that I would either like to see play a second time or that I feel like we're a little ahead of their time in terms of strategy. I feel like if Dreams played the game that he played in a modern season, I'm not saying Earl wouldn't win, but the vote would be a lot more close if we had like the same new school mindset as we do that didn't really exist in
Yep.
the time of Fiji. They were kind of like towing the line with it in Fiji, I would say. But listen, Dreams is the reason that most of the most, if not all of the major events in Fiji occur. He's the reason the 4 horsemen all get voted out. He's the reason that, unfortunately, like, he could not save Anthony, so I was very sad about that. But he was able to figure out the whole purpose of the car deal right at the drop of a hat. He's the reason Michelle was voted out. Dreams is the catalyst for much of the big moments in this season. But it's not just by coincidence. It's because he's a very, like, intelligent person and a very intelligent player. And if you don't understand that, that's why you would not win this game. Like, and that's the reason none of these people win. Like, the people on the jury that are most mad at Dreams are there because they underestimated them. So they underestimated his intelligence. They did not see a world where, like, Dreams would do better than them, much less make the final 3 without their help. Because, like, let's be real, he did his own thing after. He did not need the Moto players, except for Cassandra, who seems to be one of the only players that acknowledges how smart he is. And that's probably why their bond is as good as it is. So, like, I could go on about this and, like, go through every episode and explain why Dreams is the best like, one of the best players in the season. Definitely one of the best one-time players we have ever had. But he did the damn thing. And I wish that he got more praise. I wish we saw him on TV again, because this guy was brilliant at 24. Like, yeah, was he a little immature? Yes, but, like, I was also very immature at 24. I'm
Yeah.
very immature at 27. So, like, that's just a thing that happens in your 20s. I'd love to see him play now, as I'm assuming he would be, like, early 40s at this point.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
young
Like
for not
39,
young for
40.
Survivor, but like he would. Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like
so, like, 39, 40. I would love to see him with, like, I know he had a son when this season was played, but I think now in one of his interviews, he talked about how he has, like, he's married now and has, I think, 2 other children right now. So, like, it would love to see Dreams with, he had a lot of life experience when he first came on Fiji. So Dreams that's, like, a little older, maybe has, like, less of the, like, 24-year-old energy in him that all 24-year-olds have. Like, this is a formidable player we're talking about.
we're gonna kind of do a speed run with the rest of the stuff for the season. But one, the Battleship Challenge, they should bring that back, right?
Yes, but please make the board bigger, because everyone was so cramped. But oh my god, I love the Battleship Challenge. It was very good.
2, I misspoke yesterday when I said that the first time that a split vote actually happened after Cook Islands was Heroes versus Villains, when in reality it was this this season. I don't know how I managed to forget that, and it was Boo that brought it up, which is insane to me, because when I think of Boo, I think challenge. I think him, being a little clumsy at the beginning of the season, and I think of him being from the same town as Russell Hantz, which is another thing that stood out for me with Boo this season. Is every time he spoke, he has the same accent, and he enunciates the same words that Russell Hantz does the same way. Mm-hmm. And I kept getting turned off to anything that Boo would say, because it's like, I want to like you, but I can't. And then by the time Final Tribal came around, it's like, oh, I don't have to like you.
Never mind, it's connecting now.
Yeah, I don't have to like you anymore. Ravu. So in my head, Oolong lost every single challenge that they had in their season. Mm-hmm. In reality, they won 3. On the opposite end of things, I thought that Ravu won a lot more reward challenges than they did, where I thought they won like maybe half, and in reality, they won 1, and it was the one that thankfully got Rocky's ass voted out later on in the episode. I do think that Ravu, if we're really looking at it, Ravu is absolutely the worst of the two tribes, but they're all, like I said at the beginning of the episode, I do feel like they're more compelling because of the swap, because of the characters that are on it, where you can remember more people from Ravu than you can from Oolong. You can remember, like, if you're a super fan, you can name 5 people from Oolong. If you're just like a casual, you can name the final 3 maybe of Oolong, as compared to Ravu OG. There are so many there. Anthony, we've already talked about Anthony.
Yeah.
Erica, I feel like Rocky, Earl, Yall Man.
Yeah.
You know, yes, Michelle. Like, Ravu is just a more compelling tribe, even though they are getting the shit kicked out of them for most of the season. And then finally, that tribal council. You know, the Fall of the Four Horsemen final tribal.
It's the best. Oh, the best, like, post-merge vote ever. Oh my God, it's so good.
All-time favorite gifts from Survivor is the Edgardo face drop, the Alex face drop, and the Earl, you know.
Yes. Oh my God. Poetic cinema is what that is. Oh my God. It's such a good episode. I love this episode. Yeah.
But just, I feel like that tribal set the stage for, like, that wasn't technically the merge tribal, but for all intents and purposes, it was.
It's the first one that they've all vote together.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do feel like that is one of the best merge tribals that we have ever gotten.
Yeah.
Especially up to this point in Survivor history. Because normally it's like, okay, 2 tribes have come. Whoever has the numbers is probably just going to vote out the other one, and we're good.
Find the easy boo and take them out, basically, is what usually happens in merge boots.
Yeah.
It's like, let's find our safest option, go from there, just to test the waters and see what happens. And this one, everyone is playing at their best. Each side has an idol, but like we don't know how that's going to factor in. The 4 horsemen are down in numbers, but then one's a double agent, they have an idol, and then they also think that Dreams is a double agent for them. And so everyone thinks Dreams is their double agent that is feeding them information, and the information keeps changing. So everyone's running around trying to figure out what to do. And then lo and behold, like when they finally are just like struggling between like whether the syndicate is going to place their bets on Mookie or Alex for who they're going to get voted out, Stacy out of nowhere comes and says, "Why don't we vote for Edgardo?" And that is one of the most underrated pieces of strategy that comes from Survivor, and that's the take the third option, especially now in a time where idols are like just a regular factor. In this season, idols were fairly new, but this is something that is so underrated in terms of strategy, where it's if you have one big threat with an idol and then another big threat that person might give the idol to because they're assuming that they aren't going to, they're assuming that they aren't going to vote for Mookie just based solely on the fact that they have an idol. And so the solution to this problem that solves all the worries that the syndicate has is that you vote out the person who may not be the strongest threat out of the 3 that are there, but he's also the least likely to have the idol and play it for himself. And it's so simple, but it's so brilliant. And this is all coming from a season with just one idol in play at this point. Like Yall Man has an idol, but he doesn't need to play it. He's not going to play it. But there is one idol that is being factored into this tribal council. And we get so much drama from it. It's brilliant. It's so brilliant. I just love this. And
you gave credit to Stacy and where credit was due. And I think that the other MVP of this situation is Earl saying, we're not going to tell Dreams this part of the plan. We're just we've switched it up. We don't need to tell him. We don't trust him enough. And to Dreams' credit, he still votes for who they initially thought they were going to, because the plan was initially Mookie, right? After he told them about Alex.
Yeah. So originally, Dreams told Earl and I think it was Cassandra that were there. I don't know if Yao-Man was there for that part, but he tells them that Mookie has the idol. So I think originally the plan was going to be Alex, but
And
then they
he
hear
even
that
slide it to Alex.
yes. So then Mookie gave the idol to Alex after Dreams told them that they were probably going to vote for Mookie. And then when Mookie switches the idol over to Alex, Dreams tells them that Mookie did so. So it turned into, that's how we get to the conversation where they decide that Edgardo's the best bet. And just in case Dreams is taking the information to the other side about this, that, you know, they're going to tell them that the vote is still Mookie. And honestly, this is probably to Dreams' betterment because he voted the way that they wanted him to, and they know that it's him, so they know that he's loyal. And Alex is the one that played the idol, so we know that Dreams also didn't tell Mookie and Alex that the vote was going to be on Mookie. So same result, just like different person being voted out. And Dreams has built that loyalty and like confirmed to really Earl, like that's who you need to impress in this vote, that you know, that like, yes, I did what you said, and Alex played the idol like I said. So even if this hadn't gone like the way that you had you know, like even if you had stuck with either Mookie or Alex, like my information was still good for you.
Yeah. So I think that's everything from my notes. I didn't expect Survivor Fiji to be my longest so far this season, but also I put in the description for this video that it probably would be the longest for this series so far. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Wait, we need to say one more thing. Dreams was right about the car deal. That's it. That's all I need to say. Yes.
I feel like people are not slowly. I feel like people have really come around on that. I feel like even people that watch it for the first time now kind of understand. Yeah. I feel like you don't, because Yao-Man was trying to get him out.
Yeah, this plan was made to vote Dreams out. And I feel like that's not something that is like emphasized enough, is that this plan was created specifically so Dreams would feel obligated to give Yao-Man immunity so they could vote him out in that same immunity challenge. Like everyone be giving him the Eric Reichenbach treatment if if he had given up the, I mean, all we would hear from now on is how dumb Dreams
as a Christian man. Fuck you, boo.
All we would have heard about if Dreams hadn't gone back on the deal is how smart Yao-Man is for doing this, and was Dreams giving up the immunity necklace like the dumbest move ever and everything. So we would have been hearing all these same people that chastised Dreams for keeping the necklace say Dreams was so dumb. Like we can't keep them happy, but it was a very
smart move. It was the only move. It really was the only move.
It really was the only thing he could do. But, like, it was innovative thinking on Yao-Man's part to try this and see if it worked. But it was even more innovative thinking of Dreams to say, you know what? I know what's happening right now. Like, I'm not going to do this. So, and I do want to say that, like, Fiji is really like the season of first, where it's like the first way that this idol is played. It's the first time that the idol is played successfully. And, Stacy is the first person to get voted out from an idol. It's our first unanimous winner, our only all black final 3. Has some of the best episodes of the series, in my opinion, and lots
one of the first
drama.
Big blindside. Like I know there have been blindsides throughout the history of the show, but like that Edgardo one has, I feel like in my head, has really withstood the test of time as far as
and the vote split that happened, like you said. So that was also brought a lot of great things into the season. This idea that, like, if you are one of the people that is being split on, you may have to turn on your ally to get there. And again, the beautiful gameplay of Earl, Cassandra, and Dreams and Yao-Man cannot be understated. And it's our second all POC Final 4. And so far, the only one that we've gotten. And I appreciate them all very much.
Me too.
Yes.
As a person that appreciates when it comes home,
yes,
this is definitely my second favorite time that it has come home. But Earl Cole, once again, least second favorite winner. But I would say by the time this is all done, probably will go back to being my number one. Mm-hmm. Having said all of that, my rating for the season is a 3.5 out of 5. I think that the positive, like, if it means anything, it's a better 3.5 than the Palau one was, because Palau just totally just dropped, in my opinion. With Fiji, I just feel like this is just me speaking in circles at this point, but all the positives, me getting my my first all black final three, me getting potentially my favorite winner, me getting a lot of my favorite characters, mainly Earl, Yallman, and Dreams. And the way Anthony's treated Final Tribal Council will always just leave a bad taste in my mouth. And I'm hoping that when I do, I don't know, like 50 and 50 in a few years, that Fiji definitely, hits the 4 mark, in my opinion, because I do see the positives in it. I do really like the season. I don't hate it like all these other people do.
They're wrong.
Have to really turn my brain off to fucking Rocky, Lisi, and, some of the negative points of the season.
Yeah. I think that's totally fair too. Like, I think for me, like, it's the childhood nostalgia and my like really deep love and appreciation for the Black Alliance that we get this season, but then also just like the fact that that final 3 is my favorite final 3 of all time, for like not just because it's the only all black final 3, but because they all played such different games to get to this point, and their underdog stories are incredible. But that's a lot of like reading against what the edit wants us to believe, in my point, and a lot of other research on my end. So I can totally understand why like it doesn't hit the same way that I have a love for this season.
Hence why we had Gia for Fiji. Thank you so much for both Marquesas and Fiji.
Thank you.
I will probably ask you to come back for 42 because
yes. Definitely. Keep me posted.
I will.
Yes.
Up next, that's a wrap on Race Wars Part 2, Haves and Have-Nots. I just pushed play on China, so China is already starting. They're walking in. There's chicken. We have the China review. Hopefully, I am going to chug this monster wherever. I'm going to chug this monster tonight, and hopefully I can be done China by 2 tomorrow, do the review, and knock out Micronesia very fast tomorrow. Thank you all once again for continuing to tune in. Thank you so much for all of the messages y'all have sent. I really do appreciate it. I know that I'm a crazy person for continuing to do this. I'm going into week 3 of doing this, so by the end of the week, I will be halfway done, and I can't believe it. But thank you so much, and we will see y'all after Survivor China.